Hey, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Extra Features Interviews. They have a fabulous writer-director who's made 5 films, but he's only here to discuss one. His name is Scott Hillman. He's the writer-director of Bikini Hackers. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. Why this film? You've done a lot of stuff. I understand you like scantily clad women. Like, we can go there. I get that, but why this premise?
Why Bikini Hackers? Well, the script started about 10 years ago. I was doodling ideas for a TV show, and I came up with the idea of a hacker who doesn't like computers. That's where
Ah,
it started, which is actually not that uncommon from what I know, but we can get into that. Like the basic premise of the first scene of this movie, well, actually the second scene. The second scene of this movie is two people in a room having a casual conversation about breakfast, and they eventually hack a major bank. And that scene was written for a much more serious script, but I just pulled it out. And I like this idea of just hackers who work not so much by playing with using computers, but by getting people to be the idiots. And at some point in my mind, the bikinis came in.
okay. I want to back this up a bit. Do you normally obviously being a writer, you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of scripts going on at the same time. Do you normally pull things from other scripts? You're like, nope, that'll work here. I'm going to take that for that one and put it in here.
Occasionally, occasionally as a writer, you write a good scene, oh, and realize this movie ain't never going to happen, and then realize, oh, I can use that later. I can use that later. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Fascinating. I
you
would just
realize bits and passages of scripts of ideas or lines. I know you said don't talk about
no,
any
talk
of the
about whatever
movies.
you want. You
Fair
can talk
enough.
about whatever you want.
What I was going to say was in my movie Baby Cat, there's this beautiful passage I think about a person saying, a Superman saying, "We think of these people as so invulnerable, but they always but people but invulnerable people care about vulnerable things," which is a great line. I don't think it particularly plays well in Baby Cat, but I've burned it. Can't go back to it.
So
Which is a shame.
interesting.
Yeah,
So you like this, like you use a line within any film you're doing,
yeah.
and you burned it. Well, do you not want to use it? Maybe have parallel lines between more than one film, or nope, once it's done in your mind, it's done.
Maybe I'll get back to that one. Maybe it's a good enough line. I would like to see like $100 million superhero movie directly quote Baby Cat, but it's probably not going to happen.
You never know.
You never know.
Your work is out there. People watch it and they'll randomly pull things out of things.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. I'm sure everybody does.
The other
So
the other
go ahead.
place Bikini Hackers came from was there was a movie from the 90s called what is it? The Great Bikini Off-Road Adventure, which
Oh,
I like the movie is inspired by there's a lot of movies in the 90s that are basically bikini car wash, bikini this or that.
yes, I've seen
And the
Bikini Car
idea
Wash.
of bikini hackers just kind of came from that idea.
Well, the funny thing is, if you do pull up IMDb, there's about 25 movies with the word bikini in them.
I think IMDb is a little low.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I just because I needed to check on something for you is the only reason why if it was
but here's
on
the thing:
there.
bikinis are a common method in films. In film is we can't show nudity, but we're going to imply the hell out of it, and that was a traditional method of doing that.
But wouldn't
Here
you
it's
argue?
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm letting you go. I'm just saying it sells.
Oh,
Bikinis sell. Isn't that why we're doing a Bikini Hackers movie? We want
to a
people to
certain
watch
extent,
it.
to a certain extent, to a certain extent, it's kind of silly. I just kind of like the silliness. Yes,
Okay. So let's work off that. Okay, we have a bunch of new characters we get introduced to. They like to spend, I would say, an inordinate time in the pool, and they seem to like to have fun. So I think your script feeds into that silliness. I think really your script is fun and silly.
Yeah.
That's what I came out of it enjoying. But I do have some questions on the pool.
Mhm.
Now, that's all shot outside, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
during the day, I presume.
Yeah.
How long did you make them spend in the pool? I presume it's warm because it looks like LA, but I could be wrong.
It's LA. We shot it in like August, if I remember correctly. I may be on that. So it was a pretty warm day. I mean, yes, in LA, pool is fine. I think we shot about 5 or 6 hours at the pool.
Wow. That is a lot of pool time. Did you have to, do they have, I guess I'm gonna have to ask the weird questions. How much wardrobe do they have, or is just the one item? Or are they all the bikinis are the same?
Uh,
I
we
don't remember
we
them.
switched we switched bikinis around quite a good deal.
Okay. Now, when you're writing your script, and I mean, obviously you're storyboarding it, do you say, okay, I'm going to spend one day at the pool? Or how does that work? Or do you have 2 days planned at the pool?
We had one day at a house, basically.
Right.
How did we do this? This movie was shot over the course of 3 days, three
Wow.
3.5 days technically, but yeah. We had one day at a pool in a house, one day at a film studio, and one day at another film studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's back this. So the house is an Airbnb house, I presume, or somebody you know.
It was a Gigster house. So that's the LA film version of Airbnb.
Yeah, no problem. I understood. So the nightclub scene takes place on one soundstage then, and then the hacking at the end of the film takes place at another soundstage then.
A little more complicated than that.
Okay, break it down for me then, please.
But the house there is a film. These are film studios, so they got multiple sets.
Okay.
So one location has the bar.
Yes.
Then the rest of the day was shooting. Like I think there's a scene where there's a break room for the guards
Yes.
and a large store.
Yes.
Is Dracast, which is a store that went out of business. So I'm not sure they mind mentioning this anymore. But yeah. Then another day basically had a bunch of other sets. Like they had a couple office sets, the bathroom sets, the entry set, the couple other sets. Basically, that was our basic day. Those are basic days. And I'm sure we'll get into this. One day, the movie ran a little short, as he sometimes say. So I did a very limited reshoot for half of a day while the producer was filming something else about 3 months later at a yet other film soundstage. So
Interesting.
shot a little more of the bikini try-on montage and some other stuff there. Basically, that's where for example, we get the shot in the morgue where I just said crab experiments and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. So, what's the problem running so short is because you're shooting so fast?
No, honestly, because the script was just very short. The
It is
producer liked the material. He wanted to make sure it was 63 minutes. And I think my first cut was something like 60, 55 or something like that. And honestly, I should have just written longer scripts in that regard. This was always meant to be a very quick movie. Honestly, the producer's initial plan was just to make everything longer, but I resisted that because if there's one good thing about this movie, there are several good things. But one thing I like about the movie is it's pretty quickly paced. So I insisted on very much on keeping a very fast pace. So I shot more stuff, and then I added the scenes of the hackers hackers communicating back and forth. A lot of reviews mention them. They say it's like half of the movie, and it's actually more like 3 minutes. But I do realize people sometimes think it's a little long. So, but that's how you kind of make movies that long. You make movies longer that way.
Okay. Did you have to do any extra lighting at the pool? Because I couldn't see any. I mean, obviously, I see lighting in the nightclub scene. I see lighting at the end of the
Oh,
offices.
the pool is all natural.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, you can't really light a pool. Even if I had a giant budget, you could maybe do something. But honestly, with LA lighting, once you go outside, it's 50, you could just shoot this down natural too. I think plenty of directors would have shot this on natural, even as it goes on.
Interesting. Okay. So is there any, I mean, the pool is pretty much all set up when you get there. And the house, you know what your it's a gig house. So when you're shooting so fast, do you know where your camera's being placed, or sometimes you decide when you get there?
Oh, I should I you said do a storyboard. I did not do a storyboard. Yeah,
Okay.
I honestly don't necessarily like storyboarding myself, especially when you're dealing with this budget, because
There's no time and money.
whenever you get there, it's not going to be the same thing. It's just not going to work out that way. So why bother, so to speak? So it kind of there was one specific shot I had really planned out in my head, and that is the slow reveal of the Hacker Collective. But other than that, I kind of winged it as we went along.
Interesting. So do you feel that money, I mean, you have so much money. I understand you have 3 days to shoot. I mean, is there stuff you wanted to add to this script that you just couldn't because of a budget?
Honestly, not really. The movie actually is more or less what I intended it to be. I think this movie in particular was very much what I intended to do. Maybe I could, if I had a giant budget, I may have redone the car scene a little bit better. Because I wasn't entirely happy with that. But I think the actual budget, the actual script, so much as it was more or less what I intended it to be. I liked the pace. I think the actors were very good. It went as well as I could. Maybe a little more time would have been nice. Maybe an extra day or two would have been okay. I could have, but I think I got what I got. I did
Fair
have one
enough.
scene. I did have one scene I wanted to film, but I didn't get to film. But it was okay.
No, I gotta ask, what scene did I miss?
There was a scene where a guy gets fired very slowly walk. There's a scene where one of the hackers is hiding in the middle of the movie, and I had a scene where a guy is just very slowly walking across the scene. He gets fired. He gets fired off camera. Then he slowly walks past, walking past the woman. Then he gets rehired. Then he gets slowly walks past again. Then gets
Ah,
fired. It's kind of like a Bugs Bunny joke. I mean, the entire movie is a little bit of a Bugs Bunny joke, but we didn't get to shoot. I think just because that was a reshoot today, we didn't get to reshoot that. I kind of we did a version of that with the scene where she's just sitting in this office and typing on the computer, and she hears this conversation, and then someone just walks by her. But that's pretty funny, but I
yes.
don't think it's quite as funny.
Yeah, I do have to ask. I mean, you have a very distinct looking actors in this film. Where did you find them?
Did casting calls some of there? I work. This was for a company called Cinema Epoch, and Cinema Epoch has what I call the Cinema Epoch players. So for the main group of the main leads, I did do a casting call for them, and a couple of other people. That's where I got Chris Sandberg, really good actor, and Marco Torres. But a lot of them are like the what I call the Cinema Epoch player. So Louis Spinelli, Louis, this is Stefano, Chris Spinelli. These people kind of showed up as part of this group.
So is this a group you've worked with before?
Yes, a couple of times, yeah, plenty of times. Chris Spinelli, I think, has been in 30 Cinema Epoch movies.
Wow.
He just shows up. He just shows up. He shows up. Yeah.
So I guess you knew what you were getting then when you
Oh
hired
yeah.
this group. That's awesome.
Chris is a very good actor. He plays the security expert who meets his lover. So
Okay. You do have music in this film. Do you source your music or do you just,
it's all stock music. It's stock music.
that's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
So when you're done your film, how long does it take you to edit though? I mean, you've shot for 3 days. You got said your first cut was only 55 minutes. You needed an extra eight. So how does that process work?
I worked with an editor on this movie. I didn't necessarily like his cut of the movie, to be honest with you, but you worked with an editor. It took like 3 or 4 months. I also did like
Oh wow.
that's partially because he was editing like 5 other movies for Cinema Epoch at the same time.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, that's
But
for
I
three and
also
a half.
did about a couple. And I did also did a lot of special effects that took a little while to do, but not too long. Did
So
some of those I did myself. Some of them I outsourced to vendors who do special effects. So
you're talking about the computer screen setup shots?
the computer screen setup shots, also the smoke shots. There are a couple of smokes. There are a couple of scenes of smoke and things like that.
Oh, I thought that was on set.
It would have been easier to do on set, but we didn't do it. It's smoke can be hard on some. On other movies, I have done smoke on set, but on this one we didn't. Like that looked natural enough to think it's a real smoke machine is, I guess, a compliment to the movie.
When you were writing this, did you write a sequel? Because I really felt there should be a next one.
I've been asked to do a sequel a couple of times, but I'm not super interested. I have this vague idea of the two main characters married and they have to do one last job.
Yeah.
And kind of, I mean, the movie is kind of very loosely inspired by Ocean's 11.
Okay.
So I was thinking of doing like an Ocean's 12 or Ocean's 13 kind of thing, but possibly.
Fair enough. Do you always have the same crew in your films? I mean, obviously
No,
yourself and
that varies quite a bit.
interesting. I don't know. I'm just shocked that you shot a movie in this length in 3.5 days. I just found that the pacing level must be insane to move everything that quickly.
I had to do most of the moving myself, to be honest. A lot of, but yeah, it's a challenge. But I honestly kind of like working that fast. I do a lot of lighting and crew works for larger movies,
Okay.
and there
So you
is
know what you're doing.
what I know
You
what
know
I'm
what you're
doing.
doing.
But also, sometimes when you're shooting 3 or 4 minutes a day, it can feel a little slow to a certain extent. The pacing just doesn't work, especially with comedy. I like to move relatively quick. There's a comedy has a speed to it that does not shooting one comedy scene a day is usually death by the end, and it
Wow.
does affect the movie to a certain extent. Like you can't expect an actor to be funny doing the same thing over and over again that long. Generally speaking, actors don't improve that much with a second take. There are several. I mean, we took multiple takes of a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily improve that much. So I like the pace to an extent. We shot about 15 minutes a day, and that actually felt pretty good. I did not weirdly, especially on this one day, I felt we actually didn't feel. 2 days I felt very rushed. One day did not. So I felt
Wow.
that's kind of yeah.
That's insane. So do you have final say over your poster, or is that a producer thing?
Producer thing.
Interesting. Does that annoy you? I mean, you've written and directed. I thought you might get final say on that. So that's it. You just get your cut and you send it in and you have to go from there.
The film I got, the film I got a final cut. The poster did not. Yeah, I'll leave that off.
Interesting.
I'll be diplomatic about that.
No, that's fair. I'm
Yeah,
just throwing questions out here to
right.
see how things work. So when you were writing the script, I mean, did you know you were just going to have the three sets? Like, is that pre-planned in your head, or is that
Yeah,
just
I did. I wrote around it. I wrote around. I knew, especially the film studios pretty well, so I kind of wrote it around it.
fascinating? I'm just amazed. I'm sorry. I'm going back to how fast you shot this. I just think that's
Oh,
awesome.
it is amazing if you think about it. But yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was
I
very quick.
I
It was a very quick set. Like we shot like you can shoot a lot. The movie doesn't have that many locations when you think about it. So
No,
it's
it
kind of,
does. I definitely agree. You make it look bigger than it is. I will give you that.
I mean, this is something I think a lot as a writer when you're dealing with this budget or anything. Moving helps a lot. Switch, 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 switch every 30 seconds or someplace else. Even if you're going back to the same locations again and again, the energy kind of thing, which is kind of why I think like this kind of heist movie kind of works for that.
Well, I think you do that very well, that your cut scenes, because you bring the pool back, and the pool's, like I said, I didn't even notice we switched outfits because we're going forward, back, forward. You do keep me guessing.
Yeah,
I do definitely find that. Okay, are you ready for some fun questions?
sure, go ahead.
Your favorite film, please?
The Dark Crystal.
Oh, lovely choice. Very nice.
Yes.
One film you recommend from last year people don't usually watch?
Last year I don't usually watch. I'm trying to think of 1 second. Love Lies Bleeding.
Okay, I would say that's a good choice. A lot of people did not see that film. I did. My last question, I'm gonna have to, I don't know. What's the fastest you've ever shot a movie?
What's the fastest I ever shot a movie? Honestly, this probably is my fastest. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Other,
you
other
are
than
gonna
other than yeah, okay.
go
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, this is probably the fastest I ever shot a movie. This is probably the every other movie has like 4 or 5 days, but this was the fastest I ever shot in the movie. And I'm not entirely happy with the movie, to be honest with you. But I think it's interesting. Definitely, it's an interesting experience. Like it's definitely experience. I was trying very hard in this movie for this idea of queer cool. I wanted these queer characters to have this big silly adventure and be cool doing it. I'm not quite sure I ever got to cool in that movie, so I think that's how the movie fails. But otherwise, there's a
Wow.
lot of fun in this movie.
I don't know. I had fun. That's all I gotta say. So everybody, I know I was gonna ask you where to find his stuff, but I can tell you it's all on Tubi. So just look up Scott Hillman. It'll show up. All
It'll show
five.
up on Tubi, and if you read the Hard Times, if you go to the Hard Times, wrote an article about this a couple weeks ago, and says Drex of Humanity found on the second page of Tubi. So just go to the second page of Tubi. You'll
Yes.
find Bikini Hackers.
Guys, watch it. Have fun. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you too. Have a good time. Bye. Thank you.